We will whip inflation, save the planet, and save grandma from having to choose between food and drugs. So say the Democrats. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is another declaration of truth from your host, Terry A. Hurlbut. Well, the Inflation Reduction Act passed the Senate yesterday, 51 to 50, with the Vice President casting her constitutional tie-breaking vote. That, at least, is how official sources, a government organ, and government-sympathetic organs are reporting this event. In blunt fact, Inflation Reduction Act is a misnomer. This new law will provoke inflation, and already the spin doctors are teeing up their excuses. Before we dive into this, I do want to shout out to the sponsor of this channel, which is Conservative News and Views, link in the description. Be sure to check out the awesome CNAV Store. Scroll down near the bottom for that link. Lots of good merchandise there, including this t-shirt that I've chosen for today. As you can see, it shows an explosion. And here's Joe Biden giddily shouting, "I did that!" Well, the American people will have to decide whether the Democrats will permanently blow up the economy or whether they have immediately blown up their strategy to retain Congress this midterms and the White House 2 years later. And that goes whether Joe Biden wins renomination or Liz Cheney takes that nomination away from him. Forget Kamala Harris or Nancy Pelosi. Liz Cheney will be the one to beat at the Democratic National Convention in 2024. Mark my words. Enough of that. Let's dive into the so-called Inflation Reduction Act, shall we? Yes, I know, we'll be waiting in slime from now on, but sometimes you gotta do it. Reportage, and I use the term loosely, on the Inflation Reduction Act comes first from NPR. They have a How It Passed article and a What's In It article. More to the point, they were good or brazen enough to include a document cloud link to the bill. I've left that link in the description. Read it for yourselves, all 755 pages of it. Other reports come from CNBC, Vermont Biz, and Vox. Actually, Vermont Biz almost doesn't count, because all it has is a statement by Senator Patrick Leahy, the real senior senator from Vermont. His claim to fame here is that he is president pro tempore of the Senate. But the statement is worth saving for the truth claims it makes. Truth claims that I will check someday. In relevant part, the senator, fourth in line of presidential succession, by the way, says, and I quote, "Today, the Senate advanced a once-in-a-generation bill to meaningfully address the real threats of climate change. It addresses the exorbitant price of prescription drugs, and despite claims to the contrary, it is poised to reduce the deficit." Does this bill address every crisis facing our country? No. Does it take substantial steps forward to meeting the greatest threat to future generations in climate change? Yes, unquote Senator Leahy. All the other reportage contains summaries of the bill by its authors, prime movers, and apologists in the leftist media. NPR spares only one sentence of commentary in opposition to the measure. Therefore, I simply cannot independently verify the truth claims these organs are making. For that reason, with apologies to fellow YouTuber Diktor van Doomcock, to whom I've left a link in the description, and who can now take his place as the first of my featured channels, I present this to you as unverified propaganda and ask that you take it with a grain of salt. First, I'm going to discuss climate change, because that's really the big news about this bill. The Inflation Reduction Act makes two basic truth claims about climate change. First, it claims or assumes that human beings are cooking the planet with fossil fuels and inefficient energy use. Second, it claims that it will turn down the heat, if not take the planet off the burner altogether. To that end, it proposes to spend $369 billion on things like paying some, but not all people, to buy electric vehicles. $7,500 to buy new or $4,000 to buy used. This would renew, without phase-out, the credit for buying such vehicles from any maker, regardless of that maker's unit sales. Paying people to install heat pumps. Now, heat pumps, or reversible air conditioners, can heat a house or building more efficiently than making new heat on site. But that applies mainly in the South, with its mild winters. It does not apply in Texas, which is the target of the Arctic flying wedge. Now, so when you install a heat pump, you must, of course, install an auxiliary furnace. Maybe a certain nerd who shall remain nameless here, who is as famous as an aerospace entrepreneur as he is as an automaker, will devise a home heat pump capable of operating efficiently at 18 degrees Fahrenheit. The freezing point of water, just so you know, is 32 Fahrenheit. But he has made no such announcement yet. Covering some or all of the cost of rooftop solar panels. Now, most figures on solar panel economics, power economics, look at peak solar power and available reimbursement. They do not consider the cost of extra batteries to manage intermittent and inconsistent power, nor do they consider that solar panels wear out. In 20 years, 30 at most, those panels will go to the landfills. Nor does the bill address where electric vehicle makers will get the lithium for their batteries. We hear nothing about the coalition of ranchers, indigenous people, and environmentalists trying to stop a lithium mine in Nevada. Now, at this point, I invite any interested engineer, anyone who can give me some verified and verifiable insight on things like recyclability of solar panels, ever lower outdoor operating temperatures for heat pumps, how to extract lithium without leaving a great muddy scar on the land, or where we're going to get the energy for all those electric vehicles so we have shut down a good portion of our electrical generating capacity, to leave comments. That's what the comment space is here for. But I warn you, I want only real figures. I have something of an engineering background. I majored in it at Yale and even graduated summa cum laude with distinction in that major. And I have my sources. Any figures you provide, I will check out, or I will have people I trust check them out. Before we get into the other truth claims for the Inflation Reduction Act, I'm going to shout out to a sponsor who can really help you through the economic storm this bill will raise, if we do not repeal it after midterms. Now, that sponsor is OurSilverLines.com. Do you feel that you're working harder for your money just to get by? You are not alone. The fluctuating economy, employment issues, and unexpected changes in life have left many families struggling over the past few years. Collecting gold and silver can help shield you against many of these challenges. But if you're like me many years ago, you don't know where or how to start. Our Silver Lines helps by connecting you with thousands of members who are learning the secrets to creating and protecting true wealth by collecting precious metals. Whether you just want to collect rare and unique coins or take advantage of the business opportunities that this company provides, they can help you learn to live an exceptional life. Visit OurSilverLines.com. I've got a link right at the bottom for that, to learn how you can build a legacy for your future. All right, now back to the unpleasant part, which is sorting out the truth claims for the Inflation Reduction Act. With regard to climate change, climate action groups breathlessly support the bill's truth claims with some wild truth claims of their own. They claim a 40% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions by 2030, using 2005 as the standard. Then they claim 550,000 new clean energy jobs Do they claim that those measures will not cost existing jobs? Well, on that question, they are as quiet as mice. Those estimates come from American Clean Power. At least they are trying to offer some hard, watchable numbers. The Solar Energy Industries Association, the Natural Resources Defense Council, the Rocky Mountain Institute, and the American Council on Renewable Energy offer nothing but generalities and ballyhoo. And I'm not going to repeat any of it. It's not worth it. The apologists for the Inflation Reduction Act offer more subdued praise for what got through the Senate on prescription drugs. Now the Secretary for Health and Human Services will negotiate prices of some, not all, drugs for Medicare. It explicitly caps the price of insulin for Medicare patients at $35 per month. It also caps all out-of-pocket drug expenses at $2,000 a year, effective in 2025. Finally, it extends for 3 years certain subsidies relating to the virus that shall remain nameless. Moving on, this act changes tax law. It creates a 15% minimum tax on corporations reporting $1 billion or more a year in revenue. It also includes a 1% excise on stock buybacks, effective 2023. In one change that gets too little mention, the bill has an $80 billion budget boost for the Internal Revenue Service, which means more audits, including TICNIP audits. That's TCMP, the Taxpayer Compliance Measurement Program. If you get hit with a TICNIP audit, they will look over every single line item on your return. And those guys will be worse than the tax farmers of Jesus' day. I won't say that IRS agents will get a bonus of a few cents on every dollar they browbeat out of you. But with $80 billion to spend on hiring new agents and arming them too, who knows? Now, is anyone making any truth counterclaims? Yes. Heritage Foundation. In the past 2 months, they have filed 3 different stories countering the truth claims of the Biden administration. In June, they filed a massive backgrounder report to estimate the true cost of climate action. They concluded trying to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 50%, which was Biden's original goal, by 2030 would crash the economy long before then. The Inflation Reduction Act sets a goal of 40%. Now, that's only slightly more modest. A carbon tax would cause a depression and cost 1.2 million jobs over 18 years. Now, as far as I can determine, this new bill does not have an explicit carbon tax, at least not yet. Eliminating all greenhouse gas emissions would reduce global temperatures by less than 0.2 degrees Celsius. Now, that would be 0.36 degrees Fahrenheit by 2100. Last month, they published an article in the Daily Signal demonstrating the obvious. You can't spend inflation away. Spending worsens inflation. The only way to beat inflation is to reduce the size and therefore the cost of government. Then last week, they published another piece in the Daily Signal detailing the true tax impact of the Inflation Reduction Act. According to it, no American resident would escape a tax increase. Even households earning less than $75,000 a year will shoulder more than a quarter of the extra tax burden. The Heritage Foundation supports their truth claims with graphs, charts, and hard figures. I've left links in the description to all 3 of their reports. So until a big enough movement arises to repeal this measure, you can check out Heritage Foundation truth claims very easily. So, what do we do next? Well, what do you think we do next? The Biden administration, the House and Senate Democratic conferences, and most of all, Senators Joe Manchin of West Virginia and Kyrsten Sinema of Arizona made almost a rookie political mistake. They passed a big tax increase in an election year. Midterms to be sure, but still an election. Kyrsten Sinema will face re-election in the presidential election of 2024. And Joe Manchin will face re-election in midterms 2026. But several senators, like Chris Van Hollen of Maryland, who cheered the loudest for this bill, faced re-election this fall. Hint, hint, hint! If you are not registered to vote, get registered now, today, this instant. Get off your couch now, to the voter registration office. Forward march! Hop, 2, 3, 4, hop, 2, 3, 4. Now, why am I harping on this? Because I happen to know that a clear majority of those eligible to vote are not even registered. And don't settle for that mail-in ballot that you'll likely get in the mail. Get yourself to the polling place in person. Repeat, in person. And if they tell you there that you voted already, you raise HE double hockey sticks. Now, the primary season is still not complete, so Republicans still have time to field the largest collection of true patriots that they have ever fielded in a federal election. More important still, the issue in the general election will be repeal. What Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health Organization may be to the Democratic base, the Inflation Reduction Act will be to the Republican base. Link in the description of the article, to the bill, to YouTube channel Overlord DVD, to the three stories from the Heritage Foundation, and to Conservative News and Views. I've also left links to the awesome CNAV Store and to OurSilverLives.com, as I also mentioned. And if you like this video, you can like this. What you heard. You can like this video and subscribe to this channel. And on the end screen, I'm going to leave a subscribe link and also links to some recent videos relevant to this discussion. This is Terry A. Hurlbut delivering another declaration of truth and reminding you to let the truth set you free.